Most of author Chris Claremont's time on Fantastic Four Volume 3 has been focused on Reed Richards. Now, that isn't to say that the rest of the Fantastic Four haven't gotten any stories, or that they've been poorly written. Ben Grimm has remained the lovable yet gruff rock of the team, sensitive to their emotional needs, but still the most military-minded of the group. Johnny Storm has been an arrogant hothead, ready to act at a moment's notice, regardless of the consequences. And Sue Storm has been the hidden strength of the team. When she chooses to defend her son against the Captain Britain Corps, no matter the cost, the others join in immediately. But Sue has also been the most victimized. Her body stolen by Crucible while in Genosha, her body stolen and then transformed by Ronan the Accuser, and now she has had her heart broken at the thought of having betrayed Reed to Dr. Doom. Despite everything that's happened to her, Sue is still standing, still supporting her husband and her team, her family. Sue even took in a daughter not her own, one who might be the child of one of her most fearsome enemies. That takes courage, fortitude, and strength of character. But no one can be strong forever. For some of us, when our strength gives out, we sink into depression. Just as Sue Storm Richards now sinks into the ocean. She is dressed carefully in Fantastic Four-themed outdoor wear that includes boots, thermal pants, and a zipped-up jacket. She was clearly not intending to go for a swim, much less a deep-sea dive. Unconscious, Sue continues to sink, and as she drops into the darkness of the sea floor, a faint orange light glows from around her neck. My name is Ben, and this is Comic Book Breakdown episode 12.27 of Fantastic Four Volume 3, Into the Abyss. Above the ocean waves, it's a beautiful day in the mid-Pacific, about 1,000 miles from Hawaii. A Coast Guard helicopter closes in on a damaged sailboat, which has the name Claudia painted on the side. As it moves closer to hover over the vehicle, the door to the chopper slides open, and amidst protests, Johnny Storm dives into the sea. He enters the boat from below and finds an opening in the hull. Once inside, he lights a finger and calls for his sister, but he receives no reply. Inside of the chopper, the pilot relays the negative to Reed Richards, who is dressed in his own Fantastic Four costume and a life vest. Another member of the Coast Guard remarks how big the boat is for a single person to pilot by themselves. Reed explains that Sue has the experience necessary, quote, "The ocean is like her second home," end quote. The pair of them designed and built that boat together, actually, with the specific idea that it could be piloted solo, or with a partner, if they wanted to come. Reed then turns inward, and we find guilt eating at him. Sue invited him to go along on this trip. To her, it was the perfect way to clear their minds and refresh their relationship after the whole Reed is Dr. Doom thing. But Reed turned her down. He honestly isn't even sure why he said no, even now. He knows that he should have said yes, though. Now, he just hopes that the look of hurt in his wife's eyes isn't his last memory of her. Sue's final memories, meanwhile, flash through her own mind as she runs out of oxygen. The night sea had been clear and calm at first. Dolphins had even paced with Sue's boat during the day, surely a good omen. But she still wished that Reed had said yes. She would honor his wish for space, but that didn't mean that she liked it. Then her sonar pinged. A massive shape breached the water miles ahead of Sue's boat. It was so large that the waves caused by it tossed Sue's boat around and swept her off of it and under the surface. Her force field protected her from the pummeling and gave her some amount of oxygen, but those safeties are gone now. Coming back to consciousness, Sue takes a breath, and somehow she breathes. Experienced enough in the unknown, though, Sue does not panic. She orients herself towards the surface and starts swimming, pondering her situation. Noticing the light coming from her neck, Sue remembers the necklace that Namor gave her back in issue 27. The magic of the necklace has allowed her to see and hear as normal underwater, and, breathe. Sue ditches the heavy boating gear that she wears, stripping down to a Fantastic Four-themed one-piece with sleeves. As she makes her way to the surface, Sue wonders how she can ever repay Namor for this. I think that he might have some ideas on that, Sue. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink, say no more, say no more. The emotional stakes of Claremont's opening work a lot better than the physical ones. As a core member of the Fantastic Four, we know that there is no way that Sue was going to die of drowning at the beginning of an issue. Plus, because we're all such excellent readers, I'm sure that we all remembered Namor's gift, which he promised would keep Sue safe when in the ocean until he could find her. Because of this, I can't really say that there's much tension to the opening of the issue, despite the appearance of danger. We do have a nice mystery going on of how Sue is going to survive whatever she encounters, whether that's dangerous sea beasts, bad weather, or something else altogether, which will be the main thrust of our issue. I don't think that this is super interesting, but it's serviceable. The emotional stakes of the story are the real draw here, and that's why Claremont establishes them so quickly. Reed is still recovering from his time as Doom, and he's off. He outright says that his heart yearned to sail with Sue, but it was his head that told him not to. And while he is unsure as to why, I feel like I can understand why. He literally became another person when inside that armor, so it is possible that his mind, and by extension his feelings, towards Sue have changed. He's also probably ashamed of himself and embarrassed by the whole situation, another reason why opening up to Sue is something that scares him. Plus, while he was going through armor withdrawal, Reed did accuse Sue of some pretty terrible things, and so rather than confront those emotions with her, he held back. Sue, meanwhile, just wants to help him heal. She just wants the man that she loves back. Now, they're separated, hurting, and looking for emotional support. And I bet that a certain King of Atlantis will be willing to help Sue out. We touch base with the rescue operation, witnessing the Fantastic Four and Coast Guard lifting Sue's boat onto the Coast Guard's boat. Ben goes to recover the boat's data recorder while the Human Torch arcs through the sky. Using his heat vision, Johnny can see disturbances in the ocean's surface, and whatever broke the surface that drowned Sue's boat has left a clear trail. Under the seas, Sue curls into a ball as her arms and legs become too tired from swimming. This is when a pair of strong hands rest upon her shoulders, spinning her around. Namor explains that the Cameron Abyss is over 8 miles deep. Sue was basically climbing Mount Everest, but every time that she stopped to take a break, she would just sink back down, negating any distance she made. And, it's not like Namor wants her to leave. Then a spear sinks into his back, though, while a second one grazes Sue's arm. Behind Namor, Sue can see an armored contingent of Atlan soldiers. Sue uses her force field to block further attack, to then strike back at them, and then she starts to swim away. Namor guides Sue to a nearby sunken aircraft carrier. He warns that his wound will leave a trail in the water that the soldiers will follow, so they won't find safety within that boat. But Sue isn't worried about them being found. She is much more interested in cutting the advantage that their numbers give them by forcing them to fight in a cramped space. Namor compliments her tactical mind as they move inside. From a writer's perspective, wounding Namor this early into the issue is a good move. This not only allows the Atlans to clearly pursue Sue and Namor, but in wounding him, Sue is forced to be the main active participant in our action sequences. This story just went from Sue being saved by Namor to Namor being saved by Sue, which will continue to highlight her skills and strength of will, and that's really good. The rest of the team has moved into the Pogo plane and followed Johnny's lead. Reed can't find any other evidence or traces of Sue to convince him that she might still be alive, or even where she could be. Johnny assures him that they're on the right track, though. He would know if Sue had died. He's sure of it. Ben adds that the data they got from the recorder would indicate that whatever caused the wave did so at precisely the moment needed to knock Sue's boat over and knock her in the drink, meaning that that was an intentional attack. And if Ben's guess is right, the woman responsible for this mess sure has it in for Sue. As Sue and Namor use the carrier as cover, Sue explains the basics about the reborn Earth, the commanders, and the whole marrying Dr. Doom thing to Namor, leaving out that Reed impersonated Doom at the time. That situation has been resolved, and while Namor can tell that Sue isn't telling him the whole story, she maintains that that is for the family to work out. There is some unfinished business left out of that whole mess, though, and its name is Dorma. According to Sue, Dorma was the queen of Atlan on Reborn Earth, and this part is new to me, she has the hots for Dr. Doom. Since Sue was the one marrying him, Dorma grew jealous and probably wants to kill Sue. Sue does regret that this is how Namor has to find out about Dorma's existence. After all, the Dorma of Earth Classic was his wife before her death, and she had hoped to spare him this. She also pulls the barb out of Namor's back and bandages the wound. As she finishes, Sue says that it isn't really like Dorma to miss out on a hunt like this, especially one with her as the prey. And she is right to be concerned. Namor points out a massive form that dwarfs even the aircraft carrier. An eel-like leviathan dives for the ship, guided by Dorma upon its head. It slams into the aircraft carrier, risking its stability atop an undersea cliff. Sue's force field protects her from being slammed by the craft as it moves, but Namor isn't so lucky. Debris clips him in the head and he goes limp, forcing Sue to defend him even further. Dorma teases Sue from the outside, unsure of how she's still alive right now, but more than willing to kill her personally. Tired of Dorma's jealousies, Sue summons her inner strength, and then generates a force field that bursts the ship apart and slams into the Leviathan. The sudden stop dislodges Dorma, so Sue has only a moment to savor her victory. The Atlan Queen prepares to pounce upon Sue, but Namor sees her first, and his blood runs cold. It was one thing to intellectually know that this woman was an alternate reality version of Dorma. It's another thing entirely to see her again, to hear her again. That hesitation costs him. Dorma rushes in and slams him in the stomach, calling this version of Namor weak. She always knew that Namor wasn't worthy of the throne. That's why she took it when he left. Sue cuts in here, using her force field as a bow staff, a skill last demonstrated in Fantastic Four issue 6, the first time that Namor showed up in this run. She taunts Dorma, knowing that Dorma is physically stronger and more agile in the water, but that her pride is her real weakness. Now off balance emotionally, Sue manages to disarm Dorma of her sword. This is when the Atlan soldiers reappear, though, blasting Sue from behind with a sound blast. She falls to her knees, and they hold her there. Dorma retrieves her sword and prepares to finish off her enemy. But Namor is the king of seas on this earth. Death and life are his to mete out. He speeds up behind Dorma and clocks her good just as a bright burst of light fills the darkness. The rest of the Fantastic Four then arrive in a submarine to join in the fun. Reed has designed specialty pressure suits for the lot of them, allowing them to utilize their powers underwater. So Johnny drops fireballs like depth charges, their explosions both rattling the Atlans physically and blinding them as their eyes are suited to the dark depths of the ocean. Reed then envelops them all in his outstretched body and then punches them into submission through Reed. This is like the silliest team-up bullsh of the Fantastic Four's powers yet, and it rears its head in the final issue. What a shame. I love the idea of Ben just sandbagging his enemies inside a Reed. It's just so weird, so stupid. I love it. Worst part of this issue and probably my favorite part of this issue at the same time. Anyways, Namor twists Dorma's arm behind her back, now driving her to her knees and taking up her sword. He hefts it above his head, preparing to pass sentence on her for assaulting the king and attacking his guest. But Sue stops him. There has to be a better way than killing her. Namor finds that unlikely, and notes that sparing Dorma will only make her hate Sue even more. That's something that Sue can live with, though. She can't live with the thought of Namor becoming like Dorma, especially for her sake. Namor sets his jaw. Dorma and her men will be given over to the surface authorities so that they can face their justice. When they've served their time up there, then they'll face Namor's justice. As the sun sets above, the Fantastic Four submarine breaks the surface of the ocean, but it does so without Sue. Namor drops her off on an invisible platform and wishes her well before diving back into the ocean. When Sue reaches the four, Reed notes that Namor still cares for Sue. Has she changed her mind about him? Sue turns. What does he mean by that? Is he having second thoughts about them? Reed honestly wasn't sure a day ago. But when he heard that Sue was missing, it was like his soul got punched out. Sue wraps his hands in hers. If that's the case, then she doesn't need to tell him how she feels. They're a family, and that means that they stay together. Ben and Johnny walk up now, and the quartet hug, settling in to watch the sunset. And that's Fantastic Four, Volume 3, Issue 32, written by Chris Claremont, drawn by Salvador Larroca, inked by Art Thibert, and colored by Liquid Studios. On the one hand, there is definitely a part of me that is satisfied with this ending. Claremont has taken us through so many different plot lines of varying degrees of quality that I am much more invested in the characters that he was telling stories about than in the stories themselves. So while this story didn't have a lot of weight to it, I never once feared for Sue's safety, nor did I think that Dorma would actually kill Namor. I was so invested in Sue and Reed's relationship that I wanted to see that fixed. This whole issue was about showing Reed how much Sue meant to him and why Sue meant so much to him. Her determination, her bravery, her intelligence, her mercy and hope, her sheer spirit, combined with her being a solid hottie. Any man would be lucky to have her, and Claremont even goes so far as to give Sue an out. Namor has always been willing to take Sue away to his undersea palace and his clamshell bed and crown her as his queen. And it's interesting to me that when faced with emotional troubles with Reed, Sue always seems to return to the water. Remember, back in our previously mentioned issue 6, when Sue was wishing that Reed would be more romantic, Sue went swimming at Oracle Inc.'s rooftop pool, a company that Namor owns and an environment specifically built to his needs. She may have gone there for a swim, but I think she was looking for a friend to talk to. To Namor's credit, while he is definitely more handsy than I would approve of, he has also been super supportive of Sue in both of these appearances. He honestly wants what is best for her, and if she continues to judge that what is best for her is staying with Reed Richards, then he will honor that. But he also continues to reach out to Sue to make sure that she is okay physically and emotionally, even knowing that she loves another man more. That is incredibly noble, and given how rash and angry Namor can be, it's pretty cool to see this more subtle, more caring side to him. Although it is important to note that Sue never once feels as if she is questioning her relationship with Reed in this issue. She reached out to Reed. She wanted them to spend some time together and heal whatever wounds they may have inflicted upon each other. Sue never even comes close to suggesting to Namor that she was willing to stay with him for any reason whatsoever. This trip was to clear Sue's mind, not to bang Namor, and I just want to make sure that's clear. From a writer's perspective, there was probably a little bit of maybe wanting to tempt Sue, but it was never about getting Sue to outright leave Reed. It was about showing Reed why he should stay. Remember, the last time that we saw Reed Richards was in the annual, where he declared that he shouldn't be a part of the Fantastic Four anymore. That particular idea doesn't really get followed up on here at all, and I would actually say that that is a pretty bold statement for a guest author to make in an easily ignored annual, but Reed is shown exactly why he should stay in this issue. Ben and Johnny are both intelligent and resourceful in their search for Sue, and their determination keeps Reed focused, eventually providing them with the technology to aid Sue and bring her back to the surface. They couldn't have saved Sue without Reed, and Reed would never have found Sue without them. Like they said, the Fantastic Four are a family, and they need each other's support, especially when things are bad. That is what family is for. And that's a great sentiment to end Claremont's run on. He has spent so much of this run introducing new characters, exploring ideas that are new to the Fantastic Four, and confronting new enemies that it is really easy to lose track of the core concept of this book. Hell, even so much of our past 6 to 8 issues was focused so highly on Reed that it can be really easy to forget that this is a team book with a cast of 4. Plus, some kids, but they're barely characters anyways, and we haven't seen them in a while, so whatever. I mentioned this in our last episode, but it bears repeating again. I'm glad that Claremont wrapped up Dorma's plotline for now. I said that Dorma was a character who could easily fit into Earth Classic and be a part of new stories, and we see some degree of that idea here. Despite being face-to-face with the King of the Seas, the Atlans remained loyal to Dorma, and Dorma had some sort of control over a sea leviathan. Combine those basic forces with a strength of arms and Dorma's natural screw-the-surface-world charisma, and Dorma could legitimately pose a threat to Namor's seat of power. But that gets nipped in the bud, or at least gets delayed for now, and much like the rest of Claremont's run, it is soon forgotten. That said, I didn't forget that weird bit about Dorma being jealous of Sue as Doom's consort. And it is weird, 'cause you're the one who suggested it, Dorma! You wanted Sue to marry Doom. Why are you so weird about it now? And I can't even say that this book was written by someone else who maybe misinterpreted Claremont's writing. No, this was written by Claremont. He wrote those stories with Dorma and Doom. He knows what happened. And so this just reads as weird. I don't understand this. While Dorma's Atlan guards did make a comment about her being willing to bed Doom as a way to control him back in, I think it was Heroes Reborn Ashima, never once has Dorma herself actually hit on Doom or claimed him for her own. So this whole thing just reads as weird to me. If you're remembering that Dorma did try to seduce Dr. Doom back in Heroes Reborn Doomsday, I'd like to remind you that that was actually the impostate impersonating Dorma and Ashima impersonating Doom. However, the rest of me is fairly unsatisfied by this ending. There are just so many plot lines and characters that are still just dangling out there in the wind, and this issue does nothing to address those. Hell, we don't even have the kids back yet. And don't worry, they will be back next episode, but that is a story that isn't going to be published for another year in continuity after this issue. Good Ol' issue 32 was published in August of 2000, and Claremont doesn't bring the kids back until September of 2001. And he even does it in a graphic novel, and those things are barely considered canon as it is. Admittedly, the incoming author of Fantastic Four could explain that plot point first, but truth be told, this run hasn't sold me enough on the Fantastic Four to keep me interested in buying the book. I came into this looking for answers about the Heroes Reborn event, and that did lead me to some ideas that I found fascinating, like Roma and the Captain Britain Corps being concerned over Franklin's burgeoning powers, like the consequences of Johnny saving Caledonia from slavery, like Ben Grimm meeting a woman who accepts not just his soul, but his lifestyle at the drop of a hat, and, of course, we've got Valeria Von Doom. But many of those stories don't resolve, they just stop. And what I'm left with hasn't been interesting enough to keep me reading the book. I found Claremont's take on Reed Richards fascinating, I like his writing for Sue and Ben and Johnny in general, but ultimately, he doesn't do anything with those characters either. They started the book one way, and now, almost 3 years later, they are exactly the same. Having learned nothing, having gained nothing, having not really done anything of note. I'm trying to think of what is like the defining note for the Thing or the Human Torch throughout this whole run, and I'm coming up blank. Which is surprising and disappointing at the same time. But Ben, you say, you just said that you found Johnny's rescue of Caledonia interesting and Ben's relationship with Bounty interesting too. Aren't those their notable stories? The problem with that, though, is that those stories don't go anywhere. They're begun, sure, but they never climax or end. Johnny and Caledonia spend like 3 issues worrying about her slave bracelets and how they can be tracked, and then they never speak of it again. The rest of the Fantastic Four teases Johnny that Caledonia's life debt to him means that they're a couple now, but neither character acts that way or even addresses that potential idea. And the only threat that actually comes after Caledonia is Bounty, who gives up pursuing her job as soon as she lays eyes on beautiful Benjamin J. Grimm. And I mean, I get it, he has the soul of a noble warrior, and he is undoubtedly the most attractive member of the Fantastic Four, but from a storytelling perspective, if Bounty doesn't finish the job, then someone worse should come after Caledonia next. Someone who can't be reasoned with like Bounty could. Or seduced, I suppose. And as I mentioned, neither Ben or Johnny grew from those relationships, so they're pointless, and rather than being notable story elements of this run, they're almost throwaway ideas instead. Maybe if Claremont had had more time, he would have circled back to those ideas. Maybe he knew what was coming for Caledonia next, and he just ran out of issues. Maybe he planned to bring Bounty into the book, and was just waiting for a good old space or alternate reality story to do it in. Maybe Roma would hold the Fantastic Four to their promise of training Franklin better. Maybe Claremont would explain why an inhuman dog became one of Franklin's babysitters. Maybe he would explain the mysterious white-haired man who appeared in issue 6, the man who sicked the werewolves on Franklin. Yeah. Remember him? I said way back in episode 12.3 that I had a theory about that guy, but that I would hold off on it until the end of the series. And we're at the end, and this feels pretty wrapping things uppy to me, so I might as well give my theory now. I think that this mysterious figure is the X-Men villain Strife. We've actually mentioned Strife before in these Fantastic Four episodes, as Strife temporarily took over Latveria, a fact that was reported to Valeria in issue 22. This seemed weird to me, as there are a ton of non-Strife related reasons why the Latverian embassy shouldn't have let Valeria in, but that doesn't mean that there aren't reasons for Claremont not to pay attention. As I've mentioned before, Claremont wrote the X-Men for a long time, and this run on Fantastic Four has borrowed a lot of elements from that run. Concepts like Roma, the Captain Britain Corps, TechNet, and Genosha. Claremont specifically referenced events that were happening in the X-Men comics as well, like Magneto's manipulation of the Earth's magnetosphere in the Magneto War crossover, or the fact that Strife took over Latveria, something that happened in a crossover between X-Men spin-off books X-Man and Cable. I would even argue that Valeria Von Doom is just an echo of another Claremont creation, Rachel Grey, the alternate reality future daughter of Jean Grey. But where Jean denied Rachel as her daughter for so long, Sue accepted Valeria. Claremont loves the X-Men. He spent nearly 2 decades writing them and shaping them, and I feel like he has just been eyeing those books, just hoping to come back. So he starts to play with some of those ideas here. And ultimately, he does leave the Fantastic Four to return to the X-Men, so clearly, we know where his heart led him. One of the lost concepts from that run on X-Men concerned the return of Strife, who is a member of the Summers family tree, meaning that he is related to characters like Cyclops, Jean Grey, and Cable. Claremont had intended to have Strife shadow the X-Men for a while before going into a big Strife-led plotline, one that never materialized because Claremont was removed from the X-books only 10 months into his run, and so Strife never got his chance to shine. But Strife is an older-looking guy with white hair and psychic powers, so visually he fits the look of the man who is speaking to the werewolves in Fantastic Four issue 6, and his psychic powers would make him sensitive to Franklin's cry for his mother. In the Fantastic Four appearance, this character was also wearing what appears to be a business suit, a look that Strife's shadowy appearance in X-Men issue 105 seems to match. So, perhaps Claremont was setting up Strife to threaten the Fantastic Four, eager to claim the power of young Franklin Richards for himself. Until the X-Men and Cable crossover used Strife first. Or maybe the editors of the X-Men books just wouldn't allow it. According to an article on Comic Book Resources where they interviewed Claremont, he had actually intended for the Fantastic Four to hire Kitty Pryde. Yes, of the X-Men and one of Claremont's personal favorite characters, to be Franklin's nanny, but the X-Men editors just wouldn't let him do it. Or, maybe, like so many other story elements of this run, Claremont just ran out of time. Maybe. We just don't know. Claremont left the Fantastic Four to return to the X-Men books, and while he has left those and returned to them a few times since then, he has firmly been planted in the X corner of the Marvel Universe, for better or worse. Outside of Valeria becoming a regular cast member of the Fantastic Four, a version of her is still part of the team to this day, the only other Claremont-specific creation to be referenced ever again is Alyssa Moy. Yeah, remember her? Well, author Mark Millar would go on to use Alyssa during his own run on the Fantastic Four in 2008, so 8 years after Claremont's run. That is a long time to be a dormant character. It does make me smile, though, knowing that she at least gets to appear again. That's more than Bounty ever gets. Speaking of one more appearance, next week we will close out Claremont's run on the Fantastic Four with one final book, a graphic novel. We will see the children's return, floating palaces of crystal, deadly tests, and swashbuckling adventures in Comic Book Breakdown episode 12.28, The Fantastic Four, Voyage of Sinbad. Everyone, there are a million podcasts vying for your time and attention, and I'd like to thank you for listening to mine. If you would like to get in touch with me to share a concern, request a series, compliment me, berate me, whatever you like, send me an email at cbbreakdown@gmail.com. Otherwise, thanks for listening.